most amazing thing about India, what it is that India mein a bhikhari will read the newspaper and confidently give his opinion on what is happening in our country. Are not paid branded tweets. Now it's an idiotic title to have, but I was, I think, amongst the first actors to be trolled. It was not criminal to have an opinion. Having an opinion or putting a tweet did not land us in jail. क्या हो जाएगा? हाँ, लोग क्या बोलेंगे? हाँ, मम्मी पापा क्या सोचेंगे? I always joke and say that my filmography is made up of roles that were rejected by everybody else. In Ranjana, I was the last person to be cast because they had a sudden last minute cancellation and then they couldn't for the actor who was supposed to do it.
So hi everyone, our guest today, besides being a popular and talented actor, is a strong woman for sure. From taking a stand for issues she believes in to standing up to trolls, she does it with sass. Hi Swara.
Hi.
And like I said, you are definitely a strong woman. So do you feel that also comes from your background? You come from a background of the armed forces and your mom is a professor, a strong influence. So do you feel that has also shaped you into the woman you are today?
Absolutely, 100%. I always say that I am everything I am, and I have been able to achieve anything in the world because of my parents and the fact that they have my back at all times for the kind of support that they have given me. And I think that for the greatest gift that they've given me, which any parent can give a child, which is to give the child the confidence that they have a home where they will always be loved and that they can always come back to. I think that because I had that confidence that, my parents will always be there for me, I did not live in fear and anxiety that is very common for young people, especially who are out on their own, trying to make it out on their own, taking unconventional career choices. There's a lot of fear attached to all of that. And I think that the kind of when you said that she's a strong woman when you described me, I think that's really the confidence of not having to fear that of consequences in the sense in a bad way. Like obviously everyone has to be responsible, but I was never like, oh my God, kya hoga? Parents kya kahenge? No, I did not have that kind of thing. So definitely I give 100% credit to my parents and the kind of parenting they gave me.
And your films have been, not the conventional route, definitely. You have done big, glamorous films, but also what were considered small back then, from Nil Bate Sanata to Anarkali of Ara, when people hadn't really started experimenting. So what made you stand by these choices?
I always joke and say that my filmography is made up of roles that were rejected by everybody else. That I did all the stuff that nobody else wanted to do came to me, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. And it's actually interesting because even my big budget roles were ones that nobody did. I mean, they were not being in Ranjana. I was the last person to be cast because they had a sudden last minute cancellation and then they couldn't, they for the actor who was supposed to do it dropped out for whatever reasons. Then Prem, Ratan, and Payo, no actress wanted to play Salman's sister. So that's how they reached out to me. Then even for Vireri Wedding, obviously that was a role that was Ria was, I think, like who to cast, and then I convinced her to give it to me. And of course Nil Bate Sanata, I mean, people actually said to me that this is career suicide. Somebody actually used that word, and Nil Bate remains the most special film of my career. It like literally gave me my identity. And similarly Anarkali of Ara, the director literally came back to me after 2.5 years after going to everybody else. So I don't even worry, I'm like, koi baat nahi. Like sabse mana leke aa jao. It's fine. And I think that a lot of that also comes from the fact that I really don't believe that fear should be the operating factor when you choose work. I try to keep like a long कहते दूरदर्शी soch. Like, I always, when I'm looking at films, I'm like not only thinking of how it'll do at the box office now. I'm also thinking of, what will be left behind. Like when I leave a body of work behind, what are people going to see? So that is something I've been very conscious of. And I think that has also a lot to do with my mother, because she is a film scholar. And I've seen her go into the archives and, like screen films from the 1930s and 40s for her students. And I know that films last forever. So, I don't want to be embarrassed in my grave, I always say.
No, but with OTT, that has changed a lot. People are doing the kind of films that, like I said, were considered smaller back then, and even the biggest of stars are on OTT. So, do you feel that has also brought in a big change in people's mindset more than anything else?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that now, of course, because of the OTT, because of the pandemic, because of the exposure to content from around the world, and because of the fact that box offices have become increasingly unpredictable because of the theaters people don't want to go to. I think that there is. I mean, we actually don't fully understand the level of change that has happened, and we don't actually have a full sense of what that is going to do to the concept of stardom in our industry and the kind of content that is being created. I think we're still very much in the middle of it, and maybe in another 5 years we'll understand what this time was. But it's a time of flux, but not in a bad way necessarily. I always feel that sometimes things change for the better also. That also happens. And but I think it's great that the OTT, the one thing it's definitely done is that it's taken the limelight away from the star system, and it has come and really sort of put the spotlight on content, and therefore you see such a proliferation of newer actors, other actors, less famous actors, but people who are great talents, and now they are getting a proper chance and proper recognition. And I think that's probably the best thing that's happening out of OTT. And it's not just for actors, I'm saying for all talent, for all creative talent, for all technical talent. You're seeing so many new people have chance for work. That's wonderful.
And also, like I said, you're one of the very few actors who actually voiced your opinion for anything that you believe in. And of course, you get massively.
I really don't know why I do it. I'm really at that point where I'm like, yes, but why? Remind me again why I did this.
No, but that's exactly why you stand out, because people don't have the courage. That's very rare. Right from the hijab controversy to the farmers' protest to politics to everything, I think you have your opinion, which is great, actually.
I didn't grow up in an India where having an own opinion was a sign of courage. I grew up in an India where we were very much a functioning democracy, where there was a respect for the personal rights and liberties of citizens. I remember in 2010, I did this really amazing trip to Gaza, to Palestine, to Gaza Strip. And, it was, we went by road, and I had gone from Turkey to Syria to Lebanon, via Egypt into Gaza. And these are all now, Syria is like now, in such a middle of a tragic war. Lebanon has been bombed so many times. So now it feels surreal. But at that time, I'd gone to all these places, and it was a very interesting trip. And I remember coming back and telling my parents, the most amazing thing about India, what it is that India mein भिखारी को भी डर नहीं लगता सरकार को गाली देने से. Like even a bhikhari will read the newspaper and confidently give his opinion on what is happening in our country. We've lost that in these last 10, 12 years for a variety of reasons. So I think when people ask me, how do you have an opinion, and how are you not scared to have an opinion, is because I didn't realize that having an opinion was a dangerous thing. I didn't grow up like that. I was encouraged by my parents to be someone with an independent mindset, an independent thought process. I was encouraged to question, to understand things. I'm a liberal arts student. That was my training in the arts. And as an artist and as an actor whose job is to tell the stories of people living in society, how can I be insulated from what is happening with those people in that society, which is also my society and my country? So I actually don't understand. I mean, I now understand it, but the thing is that it was not always like this. It was not criminal to have an opinion. Having an opinion or putting a tweet did not land us in jail for sedition and, under UAPA charges. I mean, it's like, this is not normal. And I think it's so important for us to remind ourselves of that constantly. This is not normal. What we are seeing is not normal, and we shouldn't expect it as normal. So I think that that's really just it. And of course, I mean, as I said, that, when you believe in something, you fight for it.
Another thing is social media is, of course, something everyone uses today, and even regular people get trolled, for no reason. But as an actor, how do you kind of stand up? Because the massive trolls, I am sure it can wreak havoc with your mental health, but how do you kind of stand up to that is something I want to know personally also.
When it first started happening, and I think it started happening to me before it happened to anybody else, because I was, I think, amongst the first. Now it's an idiotic title to have, but I was, I think, amongst the first actors to be trolled, so to speak. In 2014, like as early as 2014, because I did not have the popular opinion of the time, and of course at that point it hurt a lot. But I uh, began to realize that, see, I don't tweet the tweets that get me trolled are not paid branded tweets. I'm not getting money to promote a brand.
True.
It's what I believe in. It's my value system. So when you believe in something, you're willing to fight for it. I believe in a certain vision of India, which is a vision that is in our constitution. It is a vision of India that is inclusive, secular, plural, diverse, that has equality, that has a concept of justice, that has a concept of liberty, freedom for the citizens, and where all citizens are equal. So when you believe in this, you're willing to fight for it. And you're willing to khao little gali for it. So I just learned to, I hate to say it, and it's not, nobody should have to inure themselves to abuse. But I think that a lot of us, people on the internet, but definitely women in women in the public space, have had to learn to inure themselves to this kind of abuse. And everyone has developed different coping mechanisms. So I don't actually look at comments ever. I say what I have to say. Sometimes when I see a comment, and then I give it back. Because I'm like, honestly, trolling is a kind of bullying. And the only way to deal with bullies is not to be scared of them and not to be silenced by them. You have to stand up to bullies, because that's the only way they learn. Bullies are ultimately cowards. And I have seen so many times when that quote retweet, it's a great power. Use it. Every time, it's happened so many times to me when I've quote retweeted something, then they delete the tweet. Because that's what I'm saying. They are bullying. Bullies are cowards, essentially. That's what it is. And I would really encourage anyone who's listening that, please don't be scared by this stuff. You don't have to, it's not your shame that someone is, does not have a respect for people's opinions. That's not your fault. We don't have to make it our burden. Especially women do not have to make it our burden. So that's how I deal with it. And I do have to say that I've had, of course, a lot of abuse online, but I've also had a lot of support. Like I've actually made friends online. There are literally, I can think of more than 10 people who are fairly decent friends now, who are people I met on the internet. Or people that I have a respect for, a regard for, a trust for. And they're all people that I basically met on the internet. And some of them are now some of my closest friends. So it's not only a bad place, it's also sometimes something good also.
And is there any message you have, for the women listening to you, particularly for Women's Day?
I don't think any women need a message from me. I've always seen myself as just another member of the tribe. Trying to chart her own path. But I will say one thing. I think that, especially for Indian women, I think there are two things that we must let go of. One is guilt, and the other is, the sense of shame and this whole. A lot of Indian girls and South Asian girls come up with this. We grow up with this concept of kya ho jayega, log kya bolenge, mummy papa kya sochenge, or whatever. So low samaj. I think the whore has to go out of our lives. It's the most useless concept in the world. I think the sense of shame does not have to be women's burden. It's like the same thing that whether when you get molested, it's your shame. When you get raped, it's your shame. When you get trolled, it's your shame. When your husband has, an abuser or is doing domestic violence on you, it's your shame. It's not our shame. I'm sorry. So, I think that this concept of shame and sharam, haya, it just needs to go. I think that women need to become a little besharam. It's okay. We have for centuries, women have solely borne the burden of this concept of shame and honor, and they are really the most useless things in the world. And I think that we all have this inherent sort of instinct to retain guilt. I don't know how we get it, but it's a very bad thing. I've seen friends who are guilty for like just shopping for themselves, and these are really successful career women, and they're like, no, how can I buy that for myself? And I always think, like, with your money that you earned, that you work really hard for. So we should not be guilty of our desires. It's something we imbibe from our culture in a very unsaid sort of way, and it's the most useless thing in the world. So that's really my message that, let go of the guilt, and you just please don't prescribe to any notion of shame. Like, just we have to learn to live these burden free, baggage free lives.
Thank you so much for doing this. It was
Thank you.
absolutely great having you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.